Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, wherever you are. My name is Mac Manning. I'm with GW's Military and Veterans Services, and I'm here with a very special guest, the current president of GW Veterans Group, Michael Notaro. And we are on our second episode of the Veteran Speaker Series, sponsored by the Military and Veterans Services Office. So I just want to start by saying, Michael, thank you very much for joining me today. I know you very well because I am the current advisor for the GW Veterans Student Organization, which is our Student Veterans of America chapter. But if you wouldn't mind sort of giving the people that are watching this program, this Veteran Speaker Series, your brief introduction and sort of your background as a military veteran.
Sure, yeah, of course. Thank you for having me firstly. My name is Michael Notaro. I'm a current junior here at the Elliott School. I was a 5-year Navy veteran. I served on a destroyer known as the Farragut, USS Farragut, as a gas turbine systems technician, so essentially like an electrical engineer. I went on 2 deployments, and after my 5-year contract, I decided that I wanted to transition to the civilian world. George Washington University caught my attention, and I decided to make the transition to the civilian world and further my education.
Cool. So we'll talk a little bit more about GW, but I just want to start with what made you decide initially to want to join the military?
So originally, I'm from Long Island, New York, and the school that I went to, a public school, almost 100% of the kids end up going to college or some sort of higher education. So it was a rarity that myself and one other girl decided to, go into the military.
Okay.
But the reason behind that was because I just didn't know what I wanted to do. I was going through the application process, and I was spending my own money that I was, making doing my part-time job for these application processes. And then one day it kind of just dawned on me, I'm paying $50 here, $80 there. Um, what if I get denied? I'm just spending this money just to, get denied. And if I do get into these schools, I don't even know what I want to do. I had so many different interests. All I knew that I did want to do was travel. I used to watch a ton of Anthony Bourdain, and he would always travel, eat food, and that looked ideal to me.
Yeah.
So I had a cousin in the Navy. I had some relatives on my father's side who were in the Army. So I decided to ask them what they thought, and they said, it's not an easy choice, but it's definitely pays off as long as stick to it and you do what it needs to be. You follow the rules and do everything. So a few days later, after having that idea, I walked into my recruiter's office and signed my life away for 5 years.
So, signing life away makes it seem so bleak, but it does open up a lot of opportunities. You mentioned, and obviously with GI Bill, it certainly can pay its forward a little bit for you and open some doors that paying. If you were griping about paying application fees, you would have been griping pretty hard about paying tuition dollars. So it's great that you're currently here using GI Bill education benefits, which is awesome. I think it's obvious that 5 years doing anything is going to have a deep and profound impact. And then also delaying sort of the next step with what all your peers are doing, which is going to college. So what sort of impact, if you could describe it, has your military service had on you?
So if the largest impact that my military service has had on me has definitely been the fact that, I realize, or I think back often on what I had to do to get here.
Yep.
So I'm much more appreciative of the opportunities I have, because I remember when I was just dreaming about being here, being in higher education, continuing my education. So now that I'm here, I have I have more grateful overall for what I have. Also, just being the realm of discipline. If I get a grade that's slightly below what I was expecting, I'm really tough on myself, but in a good way. I don't beat myself up. I'm just holding myself to a standard that I believe that I should be maintaining. Um, and also just being in the university after time in the military. It's a little weird at first. Weird is, for lack of a better word. Just being around people who are younger than you, but at the same time, I love being around people from all different backgrounds. I mean, it was the same way in the military, but especially in higher education, so many different ideas are floating around. You can really exchange, your thoughts and get feedback. And, overall, it's been a really positive experience.
Sure. I think you sort of you started to allude to it, but I do want to ask you a little bit. What was your transition out of the military like, and then more specifically, what made you decide to come to GW ultimately when you decided to transition and go to an institution?
So the decision to transition out, I always had the idea that if I wanted to go in, if I liked it, I would stay to, however many years to get quote unquote retirement from the military. And if I didn't like it, I was never against going to university. I just knew I couldn't afford it right out of high school. So education was always in the back of my mind, but being out at sea in the Navy, sometimes we'd be out at sea for 40, 55, even sometimes 2 months straight. It's a lot of a lot of downtime. So besides working and, working out, I would read a lot of books. And I came across books by like Henry Kissinger, like Condoleezza Rice, and then like a bunch of other books that had to do with international affairs. And up until that point, I'd always been interested in politics and, civil service and just like current events. But I never exactly knew that international affairs was an actual field. So once I stumbled upon these books and I started getting more and more invested in these ideas, I started looking into universities. And at the time I was also watching House of Cards, so DC looked really cool. Um, but the fact that George Washington University had a program for what I was interested in, I thought the city was a nice place to live, and it's not too far from New York. It all kind of seemed to work out for the better.
You sort of started to hint at it, but international affairs in the LA school is a terrific school. I think your Navy career will probably help you, with some of the experience that you had, and then now this experience you had in higher education. What do you want to do specifically with the major? Have you thought about it at all? Beyond just your time in the Navy, those long time away at sea.
So I originally thought that I would probably want to get into some sort of government agency like the State Department or something along those lines. But right now I'm currently studying, my concentration in international affairs is international economics.
Okay.
And I've been more and more interested in getting into like the private sector or, in financials. So I think I would like to, once some sort of normalcy returns to the world, try to get into the private sector. I still have one more year to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
I've been exposed to a lot of people who are in the industry. Like I just had a mentor over the summer who is very involved in the private sector, and he sat on corporate boards, and he had a lot to tell me and teach me. So I mean, right now it's all up in the air. I'm always up to new experiences and open to new experiences. But for the time being, I think I'm leaning towards the private sector. Maybe go back to New York and get into the world of business, international business.
So it's an unfortunate reality that now we're in what's called like the new norm of COVID, and I've been asking sort of everyone in these interviews, regardless if they're a GW affiliated person, which you are, or just a veteran that has a lot of interesting to cover a topic. How has COVID sort of impacted you? You and I worked together last year, and we had a lot of things sort of lined up for this year until COVID started to hit. So obviously, that's a really clear change within the GW veterans and military veteran services engagement and activities perspective. But personally, how has COVID sort of affected you? Are you dealing well with classes? Has your internship opportunities sort of changed? How have you been affected?
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that this, like you said, this is the new normal. I mean, in truth, yeah, internship opportunities fell through. Classes are a bit more difficult as it's for me. I find it personally harder to focus when I'm home and I have my roommates around, my dog, constantly begging for attention. But if there's one thing the military did help me, it's to be flexible because there's very little stability when you're an active duty member of the military. I remember one time the whole crew got called out onto the deck of the ship to be spoken to the captain, and she said, "Hey, I hate to break it to you guys, but you have 2 hours to pack up as much as you need for a 3 month time away from home." So thankfully I've had that experience that's kind of like weathered me and tempered me to be a little bit more flexible in these uncertain times. But overall, I'm trying to keep it positive and look in the long picture. Like this is hopefully not going to be. I don't expect this to be for the rest of my life, but this is just a chapter, and we're going to eventually get through this and just adapt and overcome.
Sure, and everybody sort of has to do their part, and that's a pretty clear message that sort of happens in the military is that it's a tough time, but everyone's going through the tough time. At least, from the Marine Corps perspective, we'd be in the field and it's raining and it's cold and it's miserable. It's like, well, even the CO's in the rain and the cold and the miserable. So I'm sure he has a little bit better than I do, but at the same time, he's going through it just like me. So to finish off this interview, and again, I appreciate you so much for joining me on this. what's next for you, Mike? In terms of big picture, long term, or short term, whatever you kind of want to go into. What is sort of your next goal and your next aspirations that you want to accomplish that we, as members of the GW community, are going to get to see Mike Notaro sort of accomplish?
Like I said, it's still unfortunately up in the air. I'm a little bit indecisive at times, but I do hope to, in the immediate future, just get some work experience in the private sector. I like working on projects. Over this summer, I was lucky enough to enter or be employed by one of my mentors to help run a project that he was running, and manage a lot of moving parts. And I felt a lot of rewarding from that experience. But the idea of running for, or getting into government and civil service still is always in the back of my mind. I've just always felt like my parents are immigrants. They came to this country from Italy, so they've always instilled in me the importance of being a part of your community, whether you're sitting on the school board or you're running for mayor or some sort of office. Like, do something for the community. So I'm hoping that with my experience, the work, the effort I put into things, I can transform it in a sense that can benefit the community at large, whether it's something small like a food drive, or be proactive in community affairs. I think that's something that I wouldn't be happy if I don't at least give it a shot.
Yeah. And I just want to finish off with saying I think that's really exciting, and I think the fact that it's unknown, but I think you have a lot of potential, and you'll be successful in any endeavor that you pursue. But this year has been exceptionally challenging for military veteran services and GW veterans. Sort of reimagining our programming efforts, and that would not have been half as successful without some of your help. With things like the Chappy Hour filming, with cooking with Mike Meats has been really fun and rewarding. Been helping focus on food insecurities among George Washington University, and that's a big deal. And just a bunch of little projects. And you also are a member of our VA work studies. So on behalf of Military Veteran Services, really appreciate all the efforts that you make to sort of improve the quality of life for the members of the military affiliated community at George Washington University. It really does make a difference. And just being the president of GW Veterans is a big responsibility, and you had some pretty big shoes to fill, and so far you've done a terrific job. So I hope you continue that next year, hopefully when we have people coming back in some capacity. But we still have a lot more that remains to be seen. But anyway, I just want to say to all of those of you that were able to tune in and join us today, we really appreciate it. On behalf of myself and Michael Notaro and GW Veterans and Military and Veteran Services, we want to thank you so much. If you have any questions, stay tuned for more of the Veteran Speaker Series, and feel free to reach out to our office anytime at vetserve@gwu.edu, or you can see our website at military.gwu.edu, or feel free to contact our office anytime. We are available Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Mac Manning, Program Manager, Military Veteran Services, signing out.